Welcome to another episode of Magicians Only. Are you a magician? I think we have established by now that it doesn't really matter whether you are a magician or not. If you just love magic, this could be the place for you. I don't know, maybe you got a magic set when you were a kid. Maybe you were fascinated by magic shows as an adult. Who knows? But if you like magic, and if you're like me, you like magic, and I certainly do, then you might find this interesting, because this whole podcast is really just a celebration of the world of magic. Sometimes we roast it, sometimes we celebrate it, sometimes we celebrate by roasting it. So welcome one and all. Magicians Only is sponsored and brought to you by the fabulous Magic on the Go, magiconthego.com. This is the place where you want to do your advanced education. This is where you really want to learn a lot about magic. It's here. It's an immersive way of learning. One thing leads to another. You have your own journey. It's more of a resource than it is of a course. I mean, you can just choose. There's a lot of courses within it, like the cards to pocket and the egg bag and all that good stuff. But there is a resource. And so when you're looking for material, when you're looking for inspiration, this is the place to go. And I add new material every month, quite often from my show. I recently added my favorite paper tear routine with the fake explanation. That is a combination of methods and handlings. And this is a piece that I use as a highlight of my actual live show right now. And it is all there, with the exception of my version of the red and green color changing box. It's all there on Magic on the Go for you, under the title Do It Again. And I've left nothing out as far as the presentation of the Torn and Restored. There's a lot of detail in this particular trick. There's the original video, which is kind of interesting because I first started doing the trick and I loved the method. And so I did a video for Magic on the Go showing the method. And then I noticed as I was teaching it, I often talk about this, that sometimes the best ideas come when you're teaching. But I noticed that when I was teaching the trick to camera, I was coming across certain glitches, certain tricky moments that I thought could be improved. And so over the course of the year, as I started to perform it more and more and more, I kind of solved those issues. I even was able to do it recently in a show where I had a mirror right behind me. And so it's a fabulous in-one piece that you can do to music, and you can perform and you engage the audience, and it has this lovely double-barreled ending that most Torn and Restored papers don't have. That is just one of almost 1,000 routines and tricks that you will find on Magic on the Go. And it's also an example of how I'm not just teaching tricks on that site. I'm taking real material. I'm taking material from my show. I'm taking strong commercial stuff, and I'm teaching not just how to do it, but how to do it. So check it out, magiconthego.com. It's less than $25 a month US. I'm telling you, it's the best deal in magic. But meanwhile, let's get on with today's episode of Magicians Only. Today's episode is one of the first audio recordings that I did for Magic on the Go, for the talks and lectures section. It's very special to me for a number of reasons. First of all, yes, it was the first thing that I recorded. But secondly, it was something that had really touched my heart from when I was a kid. It's interesting where inspiration comes from. Sometimes you don't realize it until you reacquaint yourself with it. And then you're like, oh yeah, you know what? That meant so much to me at the time. I recently was at the Magic Circle in London, and it just brought back all of those memories. There's a fantasy world to the world of magic. Before you get into it, you kind of imagine, and for those who don't know, you kind of imagine what it's going to be. What are these meetings of the magicians? What are they going to be like? Are they swapping secrets? Is it political? Is it where people are trying to hide secrets from each other? Are they mad at each other for stealing each other's material? Or are these wizards getting together and plotting how to use magic to overthrow the world? I actually think the Magic Circle is a combination of all of those things and more. And what you're about to listen to is my first introduction to the Magic Circle, and who the person was that took me through an evening there, and in the way that they did it. It really is. It touches my heart even now just to listen to it. So I hope you really enjoy this. Oh, one more thing before I forget. We're going to do a Q&A episode. And that is not an episode on mentalism. That's an episode where you actually get to ask me questions. And so have a look in the show notes, because there's going to be an email for the show, and you can write in and you can ask some questions. And so we'll do like a Q&A answer. So please write in. Please don't do it anonymously. That will get filtered out. Make sure you have your name and information there so that I can respond to you on an episode. You can ask anything that you want to ask me about magic, about performance, even about acting, because this is all showbiz and performance. And I will record that and do it at some point in the near future. So this will be a regular thing, I think, but if it really works for you guys. And also you'll notice that I've taken off the commercials for now, because I find them to be a bit... they interrupt a little too much. It's a little too annoying. So if you do enjoy it, please pop a tip for the team into the tip jar, which you'll see is the QR code or the link that's on the show notes as well, and on the photographs. So thanks so much for that. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Here we go with what was my first ever audio podcast for Magic on the Go, and is this episode of Magicians Only. Sometimes when I get into these stories and articles that I want to share with you that mean a lot to me when it comes to the world of magic, I realize that they had their greatest power when they were read by me in my own imagination and seen in my own imagination. And so there are certain things that I think will be of more power and benefit to you guys if I read it in the audio version and allow your imagination to take over. This first one that I'm about to read to you is from my childhood, and I didn't realize until recently when I saw the book on Amazon and I ordered it and the book came in, I didn't realize just how impactful it was on my attitude towards magic and the names that surrounded it. Before I tell you what the book is, I do want to tell you a little bit about the author. Back in the 1950s, all the way through to the early 80s, there was a magician by the name of Will Dexter who had an incredible impact on me. A lot of the books he published were for the public, such as 101 Magical Secrets and This is Magic and Everybody's Book of Magic. But he also published a number of books for the magic public. Challenge Memory Test, Identity Parade, The Riddle of Chung Ling Soo. His book on blindfold mentalism, Sealed Vision, is a classic. Feature Magic for Mentalists in 1975. A Little Magic Amongst Friends in 1981. The Tarot Reader, The Astro Reader. But his books to the public, How to Be a Wizard, 101 Magic Secrets, were the ones that really affected me. 101 Magic Secrets was one of those books. It was published originally in 1955, and it was one of those books that had tricks in it that dealt with cigarettes, cigars, glycerin, sulfuric acid, and yet it was a book for kids. I have to say that would not get published today. Not that I actually tried the exploding bubble trick, but there you go. Will Dexter had a wonderful way of writing, like he was talking to you, like he was imparting secrets just to you, and will get you really excited. 101 Magic Secrets was mainly taught via images, but some of his other books, and the one that I'm going to tell you about today, were written in a style that would just pull you in. And when you're a young, impressionable kid thinking about a life in magic, his style would make you feel like you had a friend. Yeah, that's what it was. You had a friend in magic, and he would take you on the journey. So, what is the book that I'm talking about today? In 1956, Will Dexter published a book called Everybody's Book of Magic. It was a book for the public. It was a book that detailed his absolute love for the world of magic, and that love was infectious. I have to say that when I first got it when I was a kid, I was really disappointed because it wasn't a book of magic tricks. I mean, yes, there's a chapter in the back that details a few tricks, but the majority of the book is him, Will Dexter, taking you by the hand and leading you into the world of magic, to tell you about the amateurs and the professionals, the performers that were at the top of the bill, the people who made the magic shops, the magazines, the books that were available. He talked about the magic clubs, and this is where I got really hooked in. When I was very young, before I joined the South End Sorcerer Society, I felt like I was alone. There were no other kids in my school who wanted to learn magic. There was no magic club in my local schools. And so I felt like I was the only one. This book made me feel like I had a friend. It's a beautifully written book, very close to my heart. My favorite chapter in the whole book is the one that I'm going to read to you now. Chapter 7, Meet the Magic Circle. Imagine listening to this when you're a little kid. Because in this chapter, Will Dexter takes us by the hand, helps us get inside the secret society of the Magic Circle, and describes what we would see if we were actually there. At the foot of a flight of stone stairs, deep beneath the great Hearts of Oak building in Euston Road, London, you will find a pair of heavy mahogany doors, thick, solid, and closed. On the right-hand door is a notice, the Magic Circle, members only. And if you are not a member, only special permission from the Council of the Magic Circle can get you through those doors. Such permission is given only after the council are convinced that the visitor is a fit and proper person to enter here. Famous magicians from other countries, notable figures of the theatre, journalists whose names are known to the whole world, radio and television personalities, all must be approved before these doors are open to them. Now, it would be incorrect to compare the secrets of the Magic Circle with the secrets of, say, Freemasonry or any other secret society. The circle has no ritual. Its door is guarded by no armed officer of the society. Its procedure is governed neither by tradition nor by dogma. Its secrets are practical rather than symbolical. But those doors are closed against all except members of the society and those who are approved by its officers. There's good reason, of course. The secrets of magic must be guarded jealously, or else there would be no magic. Only highly skilled juggling of some variety or another. And the talk inside the Magic Circle club room is of little else but magic and its secrets. Come inside, hear the talk, see what goes on, and unless you already have some smattering of the magician's art, you will go away marveling, but a little wiser than you were when you entered. The doors open easy enough to us who know their secret. We pass through, you and I, and find ourselves in a dimly lit passage extending right and left. To our right is a darkened doorway, where a tiny hidden spotlight plays on a piece of delicate paper sculpture, showing a rabbit emerging from a hat high on the wall over the door. This is the way to the club theatre. It's a little too early to find any activity there yet, so let's turn to the left. Here's a table bearing the members' signature book. If you're interested in casting your eye over the names entered there, you will find some signatures that are pretty famous in the world of magic. There's Robert Harbin. You've seen him often on TV, haven't you? Tommy Cooper. So he is a magician after all. Jay Palmer of New York, playing the Savoy Cabaret this week and the Palladium next week. Voltaire, the electrical wizard. Joe Stothard, the Canadian card manipulator. The Great Levant, touring England with his magical review. Billy O'Connor and Chris Charlton, two veteran magicians who form a valued link with the golden age of magic. Di Vernon of New York, a visitor like yourself, this prince of prestidigitation. There they are, with dozens more. For the conjurer, these are names to conjure with. Leave the book, better sign first, though, and come into the club room. It's a long, low-pitched room with a remarkable system of lighting. From the ceiling hang witches' hats, and the lamps inside them give what some members like to call a dim religious light, and others refer to it, less devoutly, as too damn dim. At the far end is a refreshment bar, and along the right-hand wall of the long room are several doors. We'll look inside them in a moment. Here, in the foreground, is an enormous table, and just now the seats round it are packed with members coping with cups of tea, sandwiches, packs of cards, and magazines, all at the same time. I suppose you could call this the reading room, but as you see, there's precious little reading going on now, apart from a couple of pros reading next week's calls in the stage, and two young members arguing about this week's abracadabra. There's a lot of talk, though, and if we can edge another 2 chairs in, we'll sit in on one of these discussions. On one side of us, there's a group debating the advantages of one particular sleight over another. This young man here with the shock of fair hair and the wry smile is Alex Elmsley, former president of Cambridge University's Pentacle Club, and today regarded as one of tomorrow's masters of sleight of hand. Still in his early 20s, Elmsley is already years ahead of his contemporaries in sheer digital skill. See him perform the riffle pass with the pack of cards? You didn't see him perform it? That's fair enough. You weren't meant to, but he did perform it. That's the measure of Elmsley's skill, which is the skill that hides skill. A professional magician, this Mr. Elmsley? Not at all. A member of one of the more abstruse professions. Magic is his hobby, not his livelihood. Arguing with him, as he argues readily with everyone, is bespectacled, balding Bobby Bernard, another of the younger members of the circle. As he argues, Bernard absent-mindedly performs a never-ending coin roll with a half-crown. Someday he'll lose this habit, but he'll never lose the skill needed to do it. Watch. The half-crown rolls almost of its own volition along the back of his knuckles from finger to finger, dropping into his palm, popping up again, rolling around again, up again. It looks so easy, doesn't it? Yeah, try it when you get home. No, not here, please. It's too crowded to find your lost coin on the floor. What's going on the other side of us? This character with the bushy white hair and imperial beard is Eric Mason, the great Masoni in the theatrical world. Mason looks more like the popular conception of a wizard than anyone you're likely to see here tonight. With him is Harry Latour, his former stage manager, now in business with a famous photographic agency. They're planning a new illusion for Masoni's next show. It'll mean hiring a girl at least 6 inches shorter than the cabinet, muses Masoni. Not at all, corrects Latour. Remember, we're going to use a rubber panel in the cabinet. Oh, here, come away. This isn't for visitors. Before we go, take another look at Harry Latour. Did you ever see that tall, slim figure, those hawk-like features before? Ever see the original illustrations to the Sherlock Holmes stories in the old Strand magazine? Isn't there an uncanny resemblance here to Paget's wash drawings of Holmes? The odd thing is that Latour's real name is Paget, too. Here's a distinguished-looking gentleman at the bar who speaks with a colonial accent. He comes a long way to the club room as Dr. Roland Fraser of Sydney, Australia. With him is Bobby Voltaire, whose stage act with electricity is one of the post-war marvels of the variety theatre throughout the world. Says Dr. Fraser, "Well now, see, I'm a dentist, so I was able to make the fakes from dental acrylic plastic, and we found that a cigarette would burn for 15 minutes untended, so we encased it in lead and..." Voltaire interrupts. "But what about the ammonia?" Says Dr. Fraser, "you're still thinking along the lines of ammonia and acid. You're on the wrong track." A light illuminates Voltaire's face. Could be, he says. But who'd have thought that a cigarette... no use. They've seen us. The conversation is rapidly switched to the weather. They're both charmed to meet us, but really, what you almost heard was one of the really closely guarded secrets of magic. Not more than a dozen people in the world probably know the inside of that secret. A big illusion? No. Just a little bit of business that takes perhaps half a minute to perform. Look here, you mustn't ask any more about that. Look, come in here, out of harm's way. This is the reference library. As you may guess from the ranks of bookshelves that line the wall and the piles of books awaiting still more bookcases, stacked ceiling high here is the biggest collection of books on magic that you'll find in any magical society in the world. Mind you, there are bigger collections existing, but no magician's club has one to equal this lot. The Harry Price collection, for example, which is now housed in London University, numbers thousands upon thousands of books, all on magic and allied subjects. In New York's great public library are thousands more, legacies from such notable wizards as Harry Houdini and Chung-Ling Soo. Compared with such mammoth collections, the Circle's reference library is a modest one. But as you see, it's still a formidable collection, numbering hundreds of books, many of them exceedingly rare. The librarian here is Herbert Pratt, by day a London businessman, by night one of Britain's foremost and most erudite bibliophiles. It's not a bit of use asking Bert Pratt to show you a trick. He'll just change the subject. But mention books to him, and he'll talk both your ears off. Who's this sleek-haired, fresh-faced man with Pratt? This is Chris Charlton, who, believe it or not, was a prominent vaudeville magician touring the world with his own company as long ago as 1910. And still, despite the dearth of real variety shows and the overplenitude of sickly crooners, transatlantic comedians, nude shows and masquerade reviews, you'll see Chris Charlton on the bill somewhere or other where an adult, figuratively speaking, audience appreciates outstanding talent rather than artificially built-up character. Chris has almost a proprietorial interest in the Circle's reference library, for much of it is based on his own big collection, purchased from him by the Circle a few years ago. Between ourselves, he leads Bert Pratt the very dickens of a life, seeing to it that his old collection is properly indexed, catalogued and shelved. Hear them argue now about some long-defunct magical periodical, some magazine forgotten by everyone except the ardent bookworms. It's the magazines that chronicle the history of magic, not books such as the one you're reading now. The magazine editor, working to a weekly or a monthly deadline, must work fast and he must be topical. And so you'll find recorded in these ancient periodicals every new sleight, every forgotten fad, all the current tricks and thousands of old ones. You'll find inscribed there every magical scandal of the century and every legend of long ago. All the madcap magical theories of the ages are debated in their pages, alongside all the sound practicalities that survive to this day. This reference library of the Magic Circles contains thousands of such magazines, some bound and indexed, some still wrapped in the yellowing parcels in which they've been stored for half a century or more. Someday, although there's years of work in the job, Bert Pratt, with the persistent heckling and unfailing advice of Chris Charlton, will have them all in smart leather bindings, lined up behind the glass of his growing battery of bookcases. But it's not all magazines, this repository of the sorceries of an age. Here are reference books too rare to lend out to members, books of which perhaps only 2 or 3 copies survive today. Are they valued? They are indeed, and by nobody more than the members who consult them. For there's always some earnest seeker in here, searching, as all magicians must, for the ultimate secrets of their art. Here, you'll find the early editions, 3 centuries old, of that rarest of magical rarities, Hocus Pocus Jr. Here you'll find works on witchcraft dating from the days when people believed in witchcraft. Here you'll find manuscripts circulated for the very, very few, private editions closely guarded by the tiny band of enthusiasts who own them. And side by side with such rarities you'll find the practical modern works ranging from paper-bound typescript manuscripts on thimble manipulation to the handsome set of 6 massive volumes of the Tarbell Course of Magic. We could spend a week in here and still leave without having looked into more than a fraction of the books that lie in this small room. Time's getting on, and there's still more to see, so let's leave Herbert Pratt and Chris Charlton to their never-ending friendly arguments. This next room is just a committee room. Nothing in there except members of the council, and I don't suppose you'd want to see them. Mind you, if they weren't using this room, we might have popped in and rummaged round some of the interesting equipment of the occult committee. Never know what we might find among it either. They do say, those who've peeped into the boxes and cupboards, that you'll find anything from a ghost to a swami gimmick in there. You'd like to know what a swami gimmick is? Now here next door is a place you'll enjoy seeing. It's the Magic Circles Museum. So when you leave, you can tell your friends that you've seen something unique. Actually, not metaphorically unique. That means there isn't another like it in the world. This is Arthur Ivy's domain. Without him, there'd be no museum as we know it today. Arthur Ivy is this pleasant, mild gentleman sitting at his desk just inside the door, one of the most knowledgeable fellows in the world as regards magic and magicians of the past, and the chairman of council of the Magic Circle, as well as curator of the museum. No, don't just browse round at random. That way you'll never see the things you ought to see, and you'll never get out of here tonight. For this is a fascinating, bewildering wizard's den, this mixture of museum and toy shop, of filing cabinets and showcases. Here is contained the solid, tangible stuff from which has been woven the magic of a century and more. Here is the actual costume worn by Professor Norris, that remarkable wizard of 100 years ago. Here are the veritable pieces of apparatus he used in his show. Here is the fishing rod, which poor ill-starred Chung Ling Soo used to catch live goldfish from the air. And here is one of the plates on which he used to catch the bullets fired at him in his defying the bullets illusion. The bullets which at last killed him on that musical stage at Wood Green in 1918. Here's the tablecloth used by Carl Hertz in his Devil of a Hat program. Look this over carefully and you'll see where many of the incredible objects were stowed before they came out of that one top hat. But look as carefully as you like, and you'll never learn how they found their way into the hat. Here are Japanese magic mirrors, a whole shelf of them, made of a secret bronze alloy, highly polished on the face and boldly figured in deep relief on the back. And they have a curious property. Reflect the light from the polished face onto a dark surface, and you'll see, clearly reproduced there, the design that's carved in the back of the mirror, dancing in a flickering pattern of light and shade where there ought to be a clear disk of reflected light. Why? Well now, people have written books to explain this phenomenon, and it took many hundreds of words to do so some other time we'll talk about it. You've seen the cups and balls trick, haven't you? And here are dozens of ancient cups made of every imaginable metal, wood and paper mache that have figured in the trick throughout the world and through the centuries. Here are polished wooden oriental cups for the same trick, but these, instead of being of the customary goblet shape, are hollow hemispheres with a knob on top, using woolen balls wrapped in fine silk net. But it's the same trick. The trick that fathered the racecourse sharper's swindle with the walnut shells and the pea. And if you look over your shoulder, you'll see the picture of a man performing this very trick 400 years ago. For the picture was painted as long ago as that. Trick boxes and cabinets by the score are here. They'll do pretty well everything a magician could wish for, from making an emperor's ring disappear to producing a steaming cup of hot coffee for the blonde in the front row of the stalls. You'd like to see playing cards? So you shall. Drawer upon drawer of them, case upon case of them, frame upon frame of them, album after album of them. You may have gathered by now that playing cards are especially favoured by the conjurer. Here are square cards, round cards, midget cards, giant cards, cards from the ancient India made of ivory, cards from modern New York made from plastic, cards of whalebone used by the Eskimos, cards made from slips of bamboo and hailing from China. These are tarots, fortune-telling cards with an incredible ancient history. Their designs range from the enchanting to the horrific, and their secrets are known to few today. Now, if you really want to see playing cards, we'd better make another appointment with Arthur Ivy and come and spend a full day over the job. If you're a privileged visitor, Mr. Ivy may allow you to sit in the handsome plush chair over there. That chair came from the Egyptian Hall, long fallen to the demolition men, where Maskelyne and Cook made the first real home of magic in London. When the Duke of Edinburgh visited us not long ago and spent an evening in our theatre and club room, he sat in the Egyptian Hall chair. Yes, we value that old chair. We don't think there's another like it in the world. The posters that you see displayed around the clubroom walls are also part of the museum collection. They were set out so that they might be enjoyed by the members instead of being stowed away in their cabinets. Mounted on silk, their surfaces are specially protected by an invisible film, for they are irreplaceable. These ancient playbills and posters that tell the story of magic now as they told it on the street walls and hoardings so many years ago. Now, while we've been talking and looking around, the club room's filled up. We may just have time to slip into the lending library before the climax of our evening here. Along the corridor and in that next doorway, please. A counter with a half a dozen bustling assistants behind it. More bookshelves and books. In this lending library are well over 2,000 volumes of the magic arts. 2,000! It's hard to believe, isn't it, that there could be so many. And here they are, though, and here's the catalogue to prove it. Even so, the Magic Circle Lending Library only holds a fraction of the books that have been written on the subject. No time to talk to him now because there's some activity outside in the club room, but over there at the end of the counter, apparently guarding the occult section, is librarian Colin Donister. If ever there was a man with an encyclopedic memory, it's Donister. If you'd like to prove it, try keeping a library book a month too long. And now let's investigate this stir that's going on outside the library. Down at the end of the long club room, someone is heartily clanging away at a gong. A stentorian voice roars, "Gentlemen, will you please take your seats in the theatre?" And brushing aside the crowds in his way like a battleship sailing through a flock of ducks comes the ponderous Sidney Emmons, officially styled Monday night host, but in effect a jack of all trades and master of most of the Magic Circle Club. If there's anything that will halt this stately march through the room, it's a visitor, and you're the visitor tonight. There's a twinkling, urbane charm about this Sid Emmons, a massive hospitality in keeping with the Churchill-sized cigar he wields. A real pleasure gleams from behind his spectacles at the prospect of meeting you, and it's authentic. See him in his restaurant in Pimlico, and you'll get the same welcome. Meet him in the street or on a bus, and the pleasure of meeting fairly beams from that round face. Now you're the Magic Circle's guest, and the pleasure of the meeting is doubled for Sidney. A handshake from a hand that could fell an ox. A smile that makes the clubroom lighting look even dimmer than it is. A guiding hand on the elbow in the direction of the theatre. He even calls you sir. And he tells you how charmed he is to have the privilege of your company tonight. While this glowing greeting has been delivered, you've been somehow edged into the theatre at the end of the passage. There's a front row seat for you, and a parting smile from the portly Emmons as he turns to take his seat behind the table on the little stage. The crowd, now seated, continue their chatter and their endless debates. Mr. Emmons smiles in a fatherly manner and opens his mouth to speak. No sound is heard from him, for the audience is still engrossed in their talk. He opens his mouth again. This time the passers-by in the street above could hear him. "Let's have a little hush there at the back, please," he bellows effortlessly. There is complete and utter silence. Now, cooing in a dove-like voice, Mr. Emmons gets on with the business of the evening. But first of all, to introduce the guest of the evening. That's you. Yeah, get up and bow. See how glad they are to have you with them? "We're delighted to have you with us, sir, and we hope you'll come again," says Mr. Emmons. "And if you don't want to come again after that spontaneous welcome, you're not the man I thought you were." Now, what's on tonight? First, some new members to take the obligation of secrecy, and here is Secretary Peter Newcomb, whom you've seen in the Circle's TV shows, to administer the obligation. You'll hear these new members solemnly undertake never to disclose the secrets of magic to any but magicians. It's a necessary obligation because so many novice wizards will explain just how they do their tricks when their friends ask them. And then they'll find that their friends turn away with a superior smirk, something like, "Oh, but of course, I knew it was done like that. How easy it is, this magic business." But when they perform the same tricks and refuse to tell, this gets a very different reception. Then it's magic. For the magic of today is clever, wily stuff that challenges detection until some beginner tells all, and then, "But of course, I knew it was done like that." As the new members file off the stage, the chairman shuffles a batch of slips of paper. Tonight is a forum night when questions put by members of the audience are answered by the rest of the audience. First question. Has anyone a good formula for fireproofing? Really fireproofing a pound note? And why in the world, you may be thinking, should anyone want to fireproof his money? My good sir, this is a sensible question compared with many that magicians ask. Somebody once said, "You don't have to be crazy to be a magician, but it helps." The things a magician wants to know are things that nobody else would seek an answer to, and he needs to know the answer, for the world of magic is a cockeyed world where people burn money that won't burn, where they struggle for years to find a way to make a piece of thread invisible, where they lose sleep for nights memorizing card setups, where they go off their food planning new and devastating maneuvers to obfuscate the patient public. There now. We missed the answer to that question. Now we'll never know how to make our folding money fireproof. Next question. Isn't it time that television producers paid more attention to camera angles when shooting a magic show? Lots of opinions on this, culminating in an authoritative statement from one member who also happens to be a prominent television producer. Next question. Is it fair for a mentalist to make believe he has some supernormal power? Oh, wow! This sets the mentalists at it hammer and tongs. Who makes them believe? Who makes claims? Who doesn't? Who cares? Next question. If I can't get people to pay me a fee for my show, why shouldn't I perform free of charge? A howl of protest. Well, then is 30 bob too much to ask for an hour's show? Dismay! Take this young man aside, someone, and tell him the facts of life. Conjurers must live. A voice. Why? Answer. Chuck him out too. Mr. Emmons smiles broadly and soothes the angry, or hilarious as the case may be, participants. It's generally agreed, he coos, that if nobody will pay you a fee, it sounds as though your performance isn't worth a fee. And it's also agreed that 30 bob is hardly enough for an hour's show. Sit down. Well, it could have been a spoof question. We do get them sometimes. And unless we're very much mistaken, here's one coming up right now. A dignified member rises to ask, can anyone tell me whether the Hoffelrimmer Pass is correctly attributed to Dudley Holmes Sinclair? A long pause. Another member rises to ask if this is the same Dudley Holmes Sinclair who worked in a circus and owned a performing bicycle. A longer pause, slightly thoughtful this time, and then a whisper from a much-travelled member at the back of the hall. I always thought the Hoffelrimmer Pass was a mountain road in Switzerland. But wait a moment, someone's taken the bait at last and is enlarging on the entirely imaginary Hoffelrimmer Pass. Another bethinks himself that he knew a man named Dudley Holmes Sinclair who performed in the streets and sold pills. Yet another thinks that Mr. D.H. Sinclair was a stage violinist doing a tramp act. And soon the opinions and reminiscences of this purely fictitious Dudley Holmes Sinclair are flying thick and fast. The joke becomes involved, and Mr. Emmons, doubled up with laughter, collapses the whole complex fiction. Now hear the laughter. Ah, well, it's good for the wits, this occasional sifting of the bogus question from the authentic. They still talk about the great square balloon controversy down at the Magic Circle. Now, let's get serious again. Next question. Which is the correct version of the hand-ping chine coin trick? Here the sleight of hand experts and the coin men have their moment, and the inquirer leaves the meeting thoroughly briefed and completely satisfied about the execution of this piece of advanced coin magic. Next question. The thumb tie. Is it better to use string, paper-covered cord, or electric flex? Now comes a demonstration of each method from members who feature this baffling mystery. And so they go on, the questions, practical, theoretical, academic, ethical. Even if their significance passes you by, at least you will have realized by now that there is far more to this conjuring business than the mere performance of tricks. If you'd come here last week, you'd have seen something entirely different in this little theatre. Victor Earle's Discoveries. The name Victor Earle cloaks the identity of one of London's leading furriers. His discoveries comprise younger members of the circle, who are thus led to perform their magic in front of their more experienced fellow members. And surprisingly good they are too. If you'd chosen next week to visit us, you might have heard a lecture on some technical aspect of magic, or taken part in a competition or a quiz. But this week you've sat in at one of our forums. We hoped you liked it. And we hope you'll come again. The crowd filters out, back into the club room. A small body of enthusiasts has been sitting there all the time round a table where trick tops trick as each participant sets out to baffle the rest. This is where you'll see the real, the incredible magic. Watch this one, as shown by young David Burglass. He holds up a fan of cards faces towards you and invites you to think of one of them. Not to take one or touch one, but to think of one. You do so. Now he looks at the faces of the cards for the first time, snaps out a card which he holds with its back towards you at his fingertips, as he invites you to name the card you thought of. You name it. He turns the single card he holds. It's your card. Again and again he does it. Even the hardened veterans shake their heads in wonder. Yes, most of them know how he does it, but for the life of them they can't duplicate the feat every time, as Burglass does. It was this same Burglass who drove a big left-hand drive American car around some of London's busiest streets one morning last spring, while heavily blindfolded. He did this having his eyes heavily taped and wrapped in surgical bandages by a Harley Street surgeon, just to oblige a newspaper reporter who wanted to see something unusual at the Magic Circle's Golden Jubilee celebrations. What's more, to convince the pressman, he made him ride in the back of the car. Burglass is a professional entertainer now. In between bookings, he'll slip away to Switzerland, where they know him not as a conjurer, but as one of the champions of the Cresta Run. For 2 pins, I imagine he'd take his sled down the Cresta Run with a blindfold on.
Here's a quiet-spoken, burly chap dealing cards. Nothing unusual in that, you may say, after watching him run swiftly through the deck. There wouldn't be either if he wasn't dealing them off the bottom of the pack instead of the top. You have to watch very patiently and closely to see Fred Robinson, a railway man when he's not doing magic, slip that card from the bottom each time. Oh, now he deals again. No, he's not dealing from the bottom now. He's dealing seconds, the card next to the top one each time. You wouldn't care to play cards with him? I doubt whether you'd ever persuade him to play cards at all. Few magicians, nimble as their fingers are with cards, actually play. The cards hold another enchantment for them. This slender, thoughtful fellow, watching so closely, is another card man, as many professional card sharpers know to their cost. He too is a railway man of sort, a railway detective who travels on the race trains. If he cared to join in at the 3-card trick instead of quietly seeing the tricksters off the train, he could make pretty nice winnings at it. Not only the card sharpers, but the pickpockets on the railways too have a wholesome fear of this magician who looks nothing like a magician and still less like a detective. If you don't mind, we won't mention his name. And his expert knowledge of card sharping and pocket picking, helped by his long association with magic, is now being passed on to other police forces throughout the country, to whom he delivers official lectures from time to time. Slowly, while we've been watching, the big club room has been emptying. The clock with the signs of the zodiac instead of figures on its face tells us too that it's time to be going. Oh goodness, 4 hours we've spent here and only met a tiny proportion of the members, only seen a dozen or so feats of their magic. Now we must go. If we want to see more, the only thing to do is to come back again sometime. But why come as a visitor? Why not join us yourself?
Wasn't that the most beautiful, passionate introduction into magic? I love reading the book. The whole book is actually fantastic, but that particular chapter, I think, is one of my all-time favorites. As a kid, it just was so inspiring. I hope you enjoyed that. Don't forget the Q&A coming up. Have a look at the show notes and send us your questions on magic, acting, performance, whatever you want to do. Please put your name on there. Anything anonymous or naughty will get filtered out immediately by the program, so I'll never even make it to me. So just send me some, I'll let that be known to those cheeky people out there. But please send us your questions. I'd love to know what's on your mind. And Magically and Showbizy. And don't forget, Magicians Only is brought to you by Magic on the Go at magiconthego.com. Learn to be amazing anywhere at any time. I'll see you on the inside, kids. Bye.